Hi everyone, my name is Annemarie Ní Chuirreáin. I'm a poet and writer, currently on residency at the Centre Culturel Irlandais, Paris, and I have been invited by Fire Station Artist Studios in Dublin to read from their publication File Note 2 8 Parts of Speech to celebrate Culture Night. During the autumn of 2018, I was commissioned writer with Fire Station, and during that time I had the real honour and privilege of meeting the eight recipients of the annual Sculpture Media Awards. And so this text that I created for File Note is really a record of the conversations that I had with artists, in which we discussed how their work had developed in the context of designated time and space. So I'm going to read two excerpts. You might hear some background noise as I'm reading to you from the library at CCI, which is beautifully and centrally located, and hopefully any noise will provide some atmosphere. So this is part 2, pronoun, a part of speech substitutable for a noun and marked for a person, i.e. she, we, they. In an upstairs fire station room with Myrid Carten, I notice a long dark cat slink down a stairwell and out of view. A 2014 fine art graduate of Goldsmiths University, London, Carten is from the same remote part of Donegal as I, a place where random encounters with wildness are everyday and inescapable. In the preamble to our chat about our recent short film Wishbone and our plans at Fire Station to create an art response to the film, we reflect upon the type of silence that often exists in rural communities, how that silence manifests, and the ways in which it can sometimes obstruct healthy conflict resolution. Selected by Northern Ireland Screen for the 2018 New Shorts Focus Scheme, Wishbone is a film based upon real-life events. Carten describes it as a film that explores the complicated relationship dynamic between three young women. On the Northern Ireland Screen site, the same film is blurbed more specifically as a film that subverts the cultural fascination with the emaciated female body. On screen, an actress plays Carten, a real-life friend plays herself, and a second real-life friend has prepared an actress to stand into her role. This tricksy consolation and the mirroring within sets a surreal and foreboding tone. The most difficult thing for me, she says, was depicting female relationships that are hard and strained. These are people that I love, and yet this narrative drama is conflict-driven. In the Wishbone trailer, the lead actress is wrapped in a pink fur coat, suggesting a tinged or unnatural hide. In one of the film scenes, she is erased completely from a witchy tableau of the three women sleeping side by side. I watched this scene several times unsettled, not simply because I'm being invited to bear witness to an eerie sleep, but because I'm being invited to stand by whilst she, who cannot in her unawake state help herself, is being disappeared. Is it a particularly sensitive time in Ireland to be making this kind of work? Carten does not respond directly to the question, in much the same way that the characters on screen protest and defy refracting clear or linear resolution. The film is about how strained the simplest things can be in very good relationships, she says. Maybe because you're forcing solutions you wish to find in yourself. I'm interested in those moments of truth and emerging personality. Nearby, Carten has constructed for this project a number of latex screens. As standalone objects, I find them deeply peculiar, and not for the first time during these conversations, I marvel at how the blank screen does not function in ways that perhaps most of the time the blank page does. Shooting on latex creates this strange effect whereby the image becomes transparent, she says, and two people can become overlaid. I wanted a screen that you can basically run into. I wanted it to be skin-like. I went down this weird road going into radical rubber, explaining that I wasn't making a sex film. The latex produces an embryonic blur. Images become tactile. People merge, as in an image bath. Carten, who also received a 2018 Next Generation Artist Award from the Arts Council, plans over the next few months to bring Wishbone and the art response to a conclusion. I always felt odd about this film, she says, because I had to go through conventional filmmaking avenues to get it made. I did manage to finally make the film I wanted, but this response gives me more authorship over it. Having only commenced at Fire Station 2 weeks ago, what so far are her thoughts on the award? The thing you miss when you leave an educational institution is having everything in-house, she says. I have that here, with all the equipment I need, plus someone like John Beattie really understands my process, how practical work and ideas happen in tandem. I'm going to skip forward now to part 5, which is titled Adverb, a part of speech that modifies or describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb, i.e. gently, extremely, carefully. Everyone has had that experience of picking up a rock and feeling a response to it. Emma McKeagney is keen to talk about new materialism. McKeagney, a 2017 IADT graduate, is primarily interested in the relationship between artist and material, how this relationship develops through process, and how this development can be brought into exhibited work. In a busy city centre restaurant, amid the din of cutlery, plates and trays, she explains that as humans we are not separate from environment. We're part of an interconnected system in which everything possesses energy. For me, rocks are at the centre of that idea, she says. In February 2018, McKeagney began work at Fire Station, and straight away my hands started making. As an art college graduate, the space felt familiar to me. High ceilings, concrete floors, noise in the background. She smiles when she recalls the clanging of copper made by an artist next door. I loved that sound, she says. It stops you overthinking. We banter back and forth about different types of noise, the interference of conscious thought during the act of creating, and the hypnotic effects of radio. She remembers one particular day spent attuned to a West Cork podcast on the murder of Sophie Toscan du Plantier, and how the hours that day at Fire Station seemed to pass as if in a disorientating dream. Arriving from her part-time job each afternoon, McKeagney was at Fire Station from lunchtime, often staying until 9 p.m. Winter was cold, and she was sometimes exhausted. Of course there were times when I asked myself, does it matter? Is it relevant? Who cares? But it's on days like those that the material drives you. Slip casting, trimming, drying, heating up and cooling down, cleaning. If you act too quickly, the pieces may melt or burst, she says. There is a strong sense of rhythm and a ritual to the intensely physical nature of firing that McKeagney outlines. She describes with excitement the process of glazing, of waiting weeks, of opening the kiln to finally remove the fired thing. With makers, it's like you're an addict, she says. It's like you're obsessed. Revelation and the slow, intuitive unfold of ideas is central to her practice. It was a relief to discover that concept was not something she had by design to consciously engineer into the work. Most recently, the material has thrown up questions for her around the divide we make between naturally formed and human-made objects. Given the eco-sensibility of McKeagney's approach, how to limit wastage and the use of toxic materials is often on her mind. It's a challenge, she says. Some artists can plan meticulously for no mistakes, but I don't work that way. At Fire Station, she began using polymorph, a material comprising beads that when combined with hot water produce a hard, stiff Play-Doh-ish material, which can later be melted and reformed. Another important consideration for her is that of object display. When, for example, I make small ceramic things, I don't want to just put them on a plinth. Really, my work is always an attempt to equate materials, artist, and the exhibition. McKeagney created over 60 rocks at Fire Station. And truly, it's odd talking about rocks in this way. It's a bit like talking about air, I feel. I'm suddenly aware of and frustrated by my empty palm. What was the biggest outcome of the Fire Station Award? The biggest outcome for me was being able to work towards my first solo show Unstable Categories, which ran at Palace Studios in June 2018. I was also selected by Fire Station to participate in a partnership with Mart Rathmines. But really, the physical things I made on site are the embodiment of my time there. So that's a flavour of File Note 2, 8 Parts of Speech. The full document is available to download from the Fire Station website, or you can pick up a copy from the site. Do keep an eye out for the next file note, which is being composed by Julie Morrissey. And before I go, I want to say thank you to all of the artists who met with me for File Note. They were Marcel Vidal, Myrid Carten, Jane Fogarty, Laura Kelly, Emma McKeagney, Paul Gaffney, Tamsin Snow, and Barbara Knezevic. And thank you to Fire Station for hosting this reading, and to CCI Paris for making the library available. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful culture night, and slán go fóill.